Ageless and Timeless. We're so fortunate today to have a man who I've become actually a friend of, I think. I think you would call us a friend, right, Aaron? We're trying to make sure you have your volume up, Aaron. So
Can you hear me?
Aaron Cameron is the founder and CEO of Q360. That's Club Q360. And we're going to flash some beautiful pictures of their location in Malibu, pretty idyllic in the Compass building, overlooking the ocean and right off of PCH. Beautiful, beautiful setting, very calming. The moment I walked in there, I felt an abundance of love. And I'll tell you in a moment what exactly it is that creates that feeling, but also I think it has a lot to do with our guest today, Aaron Cameron. So, Aaron, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can
Oh,
you hear me?
perfect. Perfect. Well, welcome to Ageless and Timeless.
Well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So, well, this beautiful location, this venue in Malibu, is the brainchild of Aaron, and I think he probably conceived of doing something like this ever since he was a very young boy, and he's just followed his passion and his heart and his dreams. Is that a fair assessment, Aaron?
Yeah, right on track for sure.
So what happens at this center is quite remarkable, and most people don't understand how to take control of their own health. And many of us look for answers outside of ourselves. What Q360 does, it tries to foster in all of us the desire to self heal, and it's using something that is not that well known yet in modern medicine, but Albert Einstein knew all about it because he said the medicine of the future is the medicine of frequencies. And what we're talking about here is energy. So we're all energetic beings, and we
Yeah.
all have frequencies, and some of us vibrate at a very high level, and some of us maybe need to aspire to go higher with our energetic frequency. What Q360 engenders to do is to promote that self healing through the use of these very cutting edge, with obviously software machines, many of which come out of Russia, quite interestingly. And as we all know, the Russians have always been at the forefront, particularly when you look at what they've done with the Olympic athletes. And so, Aaron, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you did this, how you conceived of this idea, how you then became the idea to the reality, and then what is it that's facing you today to keep this as a vital force in healing? So I know that's a loaded question, but maybe start from the beginning.
Yeah, there's many parts to that one.
How did you get here? Let's start with that.
Sorry, I didn't hear that part.
How did you get to this place of this journey of where you are today?
Well, mostly led. I was where I grew up in my hometown, Pickering, Ontario, Canada. I lived next to the largest nuclear facility, and I witnessed at the age of 12 all these people that were developing, terminal issues, cancer and stuff. And I can understand why we have all these great minds and technologies, and when we can split the atom with sound. And why can't we figure out what's causing, disease, discord, and all that stuff? So that kind of led me on the path. I watched many people um, succumb to their illnesses. So that's kind of what was the driving force. And I'm just maybe perhaps too stupid to not go along with the program. So I was outside the box. I always been that way since I was a little kid.
So you
Anything
asked a
that,
lot of
sorry?
questions, right, Aaron? When you were young and you saw those people, dying of cancer right next to the site that you live next door to.
Well, everybody in the area were developing cancer. They didn't die of cancer. They died from the treatment of
Mm,
their cancer.
mm.
So that led me on the path. I looked into Linus Pauling. I studied with many different mentors and looked into all different connections to understand why we can't change this. I mean, we spend a lot of money. People raise money for this stuff. But think of it this way. We can send people to the moon, split an atom, um, amplify light, cut things with laser. Technologies. We're talking right now over a great distance,
Mm-hmm.
and yet we're connected. How? That was the question. How? Well, everything's part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So everything is a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And when I keyed into that, that's what, led me down the path.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at how are we using these technologies every single day, and why can we not send what is appropriate back to help somebody tune up, just like tuning up a piano or a guitar or whatever. In the Western world, they use frequencies to tell people what's wrong, called diagnostic tool or diagnoses. So CT scan, MRI, EKG, ultrasound, X-ray, even blood, they record it with infrared light. So we have this technology, and through research and finding certain individuals that have been, way showers or, pioneers, all this stuff that I started finding, we've been kind of kept back from all these different incredible technologies, brilliant women and men who had better ways of doing stuff. And what I built at Q360 was a tribute to show their technologies. And this stuff goes back to 1856. It's not new.
This was the Rife. Was Rife one of the influences?
Well, right, one of many great minds, turn of the century, around early 1900s. Rife, his particular technology, and a lot of people that are into energy medicine healing, they have heard of Rife. His contribution was he built the world's most powerful universal microscope. It was 31,000 times resolution. This is in 1921.
Mm.
1980, we had a scope that did maybe 5,000 times. So it's incredible that we had better technology then as opposed to later on in the years. Now, the difference, and this is what I found fascinating, the difference with what he developed, he used glycerin and he blocked the magnetic field that was being produced while viewing. So he blocked his sample from being exposed to this magnetic field, which would in turn cause heat and boil everything to pieces, fragments, and carcasses.
Mm.
Okay? So he is looking at stuff in a live state.
Mm.
Very important when you're trying to investigate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you not agree?
Absolutely.
The scope that we use, electron microscope, first and foremost, they paint it with a metallic substance, and then it's bombarded by energy, and it creates a magnetic potential. Imagine this: you put your sample, and you turn the boiler on high heat, so it boils everything to pieces, fragments, and carcasses. So a lot of results are destroyed while looking at it, and the um, result or the blood work comes back inconclusive. So it's been destroyed. So that's where I started to go, okay, wait a minute. If people don't see it as we know, then they don't believe it. So if they already destroyed it, well, therefore, Mr. or Mrs. So-so, you don't have a parasitic infection. Go home, think about it, and here's a pill to think about it. And, so that's kind of what led me on the path. But I wanted to be able to educate and help people take back their own healing.
So you say in your vision statement, light and sound. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, that's part of frequency and the hidden properties of water. Why don't you explain to our viewers what you mean by that? Why light? Why sound? And why water?
Yeah, that's another loaded question. Thank you. Uh,
I promised you this would be.
no, that's good. It's good. I love it because light, well, viewers, they watch this show, right? So they have the ability to see, so they're processing light. That's simple. Sound, You're hearing me. So what that shows, the human body is designed to receive this information, and it receives this information even at a DNA level. DNA is an antenna. That's all it is. If you look at chromosome, you take chromosome, you split apart. Our DNA is coiled around a little tiny protein called histone protein. And if you unwind that DNA, it's 39.5 inches approximately long. Nucleotides, ladder, the steps up the ladder. So that gives us a height of the DNA. It's an antenna. It's a receiver transmitter for light and sound. So all of our technologies are based off this. Now, if you know the height of an antenna, you can calculate a wave or signal that it responds to. Does that make sense?
I've never heard it explained that way, but that's brilliant.
And it's very easy. And this stuff was shown for so long. I mean, I've reached this goes back 3 decades plus. I mean, I really wanted to help people in my community find better ways to heal their bodies. And that's why I did it. And I was just, as a young boy, but I just couldn't understand it. I wasn't accepting that there's no way to fix things. So I can fix anything. For instance, I tore my Achilles this last January. I ripped it full rupture, ripped it right off my heel. I was doing an advanced training course. I went back at the time. My center was in another location, and my staff were looking at me like I need to go to the hospital right away. And I broke my hand too.
Oh.
And I hobbled in. My foot is dangling, and I said, "No, I got this." And it took me 2 months to use what I do, and it re-energized the potential and everything connected. So I did not have surgery. I was not down for 12 to 15 months because that's typically when you have surgery, they pull it down, put a cadaver part, anchor it in the cutaneous bone, and it takes several months after to recover, and then you have PT. I didn't have to do any of these things. I regrew it 100% in 2 months, perfect, and I never looked back.
So
My hand I put together in 2 days.
I was just going to ask you what happened to the hand, but okay, so
Bones are easy, between 7 and 9 hertz. You stimulate that. Here's the best way I can explain it. When everything has a magnetic field around it, okay? And when it loses its potential of energy, okay, imagine a balloon that starts to lose its helium. So it starts to what? Shrivel and become deformed. It's not the right appropriate shape. For instance, blood. So now it will start to coagulate and stick together. Now we have slow movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I repair the magnetic field, what will happen is it pumps up the potential with separation, and we have energy flow. Does it make sense?
So you're inspiring the healing by by magnetics, by energy.
Everything works this way. Everything works this way.
Right.
Whether it's magnetic or light and sound, there's, if you have, let's say, the photon creates at a 90-degree angle the phonon, so you have light creating the sound, and at another 90-degree angle, you have a scalar wave. Everything works that way. Scalar is faster than light. It's multiple the speeds of light. Light travels at 186,000 miles per second, which is really fast. Scalar is instant. It goes from 0 to now. A little different.
So in those days that you were healing, in the 2.5 months, let's say, what exactly did you do daily that was encouraging that healing?
These are particular technologies I have at my center that will reconnect the potential. So it's all about potential, resting potential. So a human cell is roughly between minus 22, minus 25 millivolts, okay, give or take. That is the resting potential. So everything is, if you want to call it homeostasis, that's probably trademarked like many other words, but we'll say that's balance, okay? Mm-hmm. When we have anything change to more of a positive charge, we have the cells aren't working properly. For instance, disease such as what everybody fears, cancer, it starts to show up around 30 plus millivolts. Okay. So everything has a voltage. Tesla even said, if you want to understand the universe, think in the terms of 369. And with my friend Dr. Jerry Riviera, they forgot to tell people the 12, base 12. But I'll get into that another time.
When you say 3, 6, 9, and 12, that is the voltage around the cell at the mitochondria level?
That's energy. So it's energy.
Right.
So energy, there's only 3 energies: positive, negative, neutral. That's it.
Correct.
It's electrical, everything. And it's taught through many other programs. I mean, let's take an example. So up, down, center, left, right, center, right? Everything it's 3. In the Holy Trinity, at the very top, you have, what is considered the father energy, the positive, the male. Okay, it's energized by red light, which I'll get into how that works with hydrogen after. And then on the other bottom of the pyramid, you have the Holy Ghost. You have the negative energy, the feminine. Okay, so that's the negative charge, right? And then at the other side, you have the neutral, which is the Christ consciousness, Buddha. So that's being neutral. pH works the same way. We have a scale, right? We have 0 representing acid, 7 being neutral, and then 14 being alkaline. So we have the same thing. It's the power of 3. And many different religions have that within their pyramids, like the Star of David, 2 tetrahedrons, overlaying on top of each other. So the information's all here. I've just looked at it with a very open mind to connect, to teach people all these things so they understand it. That's
going through that healing process. Were there any moments when you doubted the outcome, or were you finding that every day that you treated yourself, self-healing, like we said at the very beginning of our podcast today, that this is all about our belief system that we can heal ourselves?
Everybone's designed.
Doubt that you could do this?
I knew it. There's a difference. Okay. And I love that you asked me this question, because 1/3 of healing is the person's own ability to know they can.
Knowingness, right.
It's knowing. And I looked at this. I had a center up in Ontario, Canada, where I'm from, and I had, I was using some certain technologies, and I can get into it. And I had a lady. She brought her son. She was carrying this little kid. This is around 2004, 2005. And I didn't know anything about these people. They were just sent to go to my center. And the lady did not speak a word of English. And the kid, he was like 5. My assistant at the time, I told her I have a lunch meeting to go to, so I'll be right back. And just, this is the program, just set it up and I'll be right back. Well, I come back and my assistant, Manuela, she says, "Aaron, you guys see this little kid? He's running around, he's laughing, he's smiling." And I'm thinking, okay, well, he's 5. That's what they do, like an idiot, right? And she goes, "No, you don't understand. He's been on chemo for the last 2 weeks and hasn't been able to walk." Now, we didn't explain anything. So there's no pre-framing, neurolinguistic programming, whatever. I didn't say anything to him. He just sat in front of it and got a tune-up. It's like a tuning fork. Wherever the body needed the energy, it went. That's kind of like how stem cells work, and I'll explain on another show. But so I witnessed this, and I've had it with dogs and lots of children. They're not judging the outcome. They're not stuck on a belief system that they've been taught for, X amount of years. So they're open to it. No judgment. And like that, 2 weeks later, nothing was there.
but it would seem that children would be an incredibly effective test cases for you because children tend not to have their brain cluttered with all the mental reasons,
Right.
the why nots, So has that been the case, children and maybe even pets? Uh,
Oh, pets are so easy. I mean, we help a lot of different situations. Um, I always get the last case stuff where they go and
they've tried
go through
everything
all the
else.
other programs, and then they're told just pack their bags. So that's mainly what I get, and we get a lot of different athletes. Everything is subtle. We're doing non-invasive technologies, and I built a program that is not medical. It's just I teach it so people can apply it and help self.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's how it all
It's like a
works.
tool, right? It's almost like having your computer and using, what would we do today without our phones, our cell phones and our computers, right? So these become tools for our own self healing and our health
Right.
and well being. So, can you give us an example of a time when you felt disappointed in an outcome and why that happened?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've had so many different joyous moments and successes, but it's not my success. It's the individual's success.
That's right.
Anybody that comes to the center, I don't heal anybody. I
Yeah.
remove the factors that are keeping them from healing self. And that's it. And we have a very unique way that we can map the body, show people, and determine best course. And things change all the time. Remember, 50 million cells turn over every minute.
I know.
We're
Amazing.
able to look at stuff in real time and balance it in real time, do
Mm-hmm.
course correction.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it should be. So when you get a scan, how long typically, let's say somebody goes in for a CT scan, do they get it right away? Are they reviewing it right now? Or do they get it several days or weeks after?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So all those things are, parameters that people need to know, and going through, I guess, unique situations where people have come in and I felt like, wow, they were clear from situation. They went and got it verified from, other groups and whatever. The biggest thing is sometimes people have an emotional tie to disease and they hold on to it.
Right. That
And
that's what
they,
I was expecting you to say, Aaron. That the success, the disappointment would be directly connected to the person's mental attitude, and that the people that have obstacles cannot overcome those fears or whatever they are that they're holding on to, that would be the most difficult challenge for even your brilliant capability. So, and now you realize you're a facilitator. You're not healing. You're just facilitating someone else, the person, the patient, the client, taking charge of their own well-being. So, you're. I think you said it, but I want to be sure I'm interpreting correctly. So it would be the mental state of that individual that would cause the disappointing outcome. Is that the correct way to summarize that?
yeah. And the mental state is driven by many different factors, karmic, dharmic,
Mm.
programs, belief systems. Beliefs are just taught to us. I had a really dear friend. He proved this on stage. I'll see if I can find a copy for you on that. It's really interesting. And he took two individuals, and they were growing up in different communities, and they were taught to hate one another because of religion or background or whatever. And what he did is he put them in like trance and had them adopt different values.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, this individual over here is now pro what he's been taught to hate his whole life,
Mm.
vice versa. So when
Mm.
these two gentlemen came to, they understood it's all been just program. Why hate each other?
Mm.
We're all here together. Why hate everyone?
Mm-hmm.
We're at a level right now where it's starting to shift. If I do harm on somebody, I'm only hurt myself. We're all here. Why are we doing this stuff? It's ridiculous.
Right.
So all these little things with disappointing values with whatever the individual has been taught, I also deconstruct it. So I get them to realize with the real eyes that they can change. And sometimes they don't even know those programs are going on. I had a lady that came in and she was clear, and she goes, well, I go, now that you're clear of this situation, she says, yeah, I don't know how I feel. I feel like my husband's not going to love me anymore. And you know what? She didn't make it. She
Mm.
didn't make it. So
Because she connected her condition, her poor health, with gaining the attention of the person that she most wanted to love her. Wow, that's a really big one.
I see it all the time though. But we also have programs to help people balance that now. Going to, so that's the tie to disease, emotional imprint. Wherever our thoughts go, we stow it somewhere.
Yeah.
Follow with me with this. We're
Mhm.
both seeing each other right now across great distance, so we're using light. I'm
Mhm.
processing the light through my eye, and I imprint it into um, a cell that becomes a memory,
Mhm.
right? So when you read a book, whatever you're doing, that's imprinted as information. So we're using energy and taking that energy and storing it or recording it on that cell or spectronosode or whatever you want to call it. Now, if I have my subconscious mind because I'm angry or whatever's going on, where
Mhm.
do you think those energies go?
Mm. To negativity.
People couple it
Mm.
in certain areas,
Mhm.
and like for instance, anger, they'll put it liver,
Yeah.
lower back, family issues, whatever. But it creates a magnetic field and it doesn't allow information to travel to that area.
Mhm.
So opportunistic infection will now start to move in
Mhm.
because it's right for what this particular organism is looking for. So now we have an Adelon crisis or a disease process going on.
So when
So
you
thoughts become things. Henry Ford said best.
our thoughts
Whether you,
become our reality.
yeah,
That's
either way is true, right?
mhm.
So
So what about that expression attention goes energy flows where attention goes. So how do you take that concept and make that real with respect to your frequency healing?
because I realign people here, this is going back to the three energies, power of three. Like I said, internal mechanism of our body has a negative charge. So if you want to call it the feminine energy, whatever, it's a negative charge and electrons. Okay. When our body is negative charge at its resting potential, what do I attract? Positive thought, positive thought. So if my brain's negative charge, positive thought, right?
Mhm.
Okay. If I flip the polarity of the hydrogen and I become the positive charge inside my brain, what am I attracting?
Mhm.
Negative thought, yin yang,
Mhm.
energy. So what we do is when people start getting sufficient energy, thyroid starts to function, adrenaline starts to function appropriately when it's needed. Everything else starts to shift. Thyroid is the thermostat for the body. So when that's in balance, everything else starts to work with endocrine system, everything starts to flow. And now people feel good because now their endorphins, and serotonin, all this stuff is now in check.
Mhm.
But we're bombarded by all sorts of energies we don't see. Can you see Wi-Fi?
Mhm.
No, right? Well, how about this? What about a geopathic burden?
Mhm.
Let's just imagine right now, 300 feet below us is a river. Who's to say it's not there or is, right? But
Mhm.
the river is flowing, which is causing current at a 90-degree angle. That'll create a magnetic field. And if someone's bed is in that area, it will turn off and on thyroid all night long.
Mhm.
Magnetic disturbance. I see it all the time. We can measure it here.
Mhm.
Okay. Just by balancing their home from that,
Yeah.
things settle down. The
How
5G stuff right now, this stuff is incredibly good for communication, not so good for health. And I'll share. Microwave antenna is tuned to the frequency of water. Water is 2.45 gigahertz. What is the human body? 72.8% water. So when you take food and it has moisture and you put it in your microwave, it's matching resonant frequency, causing ionization, friction, heat, right? That's how it heats up. Well, if we're bombarded by these technologies, what do you think is happening to our Hayflick limit division of cells, where our telomeres start to shrink down, and then the cell goes poor copy, poor copy, poor copy, death, right? Or poor copy, poor copy, poor copy, continuous cell, and that's cancer. That's how it works. And cancer is one of the things that protects environment, and I will teach this soon. I teach it here at my center, whatever, but it protects the terrain from an infection that our immune system failed to respond. And that's what that is.
That's a rather radical point of view that I don't think I'm pretty sure the allopathic model would not support that definition. However, I think
that's okay, because they're still working off of Louis Pasteur. 1900, Chomp showed that he was incorrect. But whatever is whatever. And either I'm not going to, people that want to think a certain way, that's fine. I don't have to do anything with them. Know your audience, right? But people that really want to understand, like, let me ask you this. How can we go this far in time? And we've had all these amazing technologies developed. And remember, I got into this because I couldn't comprehend we can split an atom. That's an extremely small substance by sound. We can't figure out it's causing disease. With all the brilliant people here on this planet, we can't do it. Manhattan Project, how long did that run? They had 155,000 people working on the same project, and not one person knew what the other person was doing. It's just separation of, information transfer. So that's how those programs work. I work with so many people, whoever's open, they're open. I'm not about this is better than that, okay? What I'm doing is showing people best practices. If it's this particular method that works, then let's do it. And if this is a good support method for that method, then let's do it. If somebody needs, an aspirin or whatever to settle pain so they can get a good night's sleep, let's do it. It's best practices. There's so many different things out there. And it all comes from source. It's all here. But these technologies were developed back in the 1900s. I'll share this because the audience would probably like to know this. In 1856, there was Dr. George Starr White and Dr. Abrams, his colleague. And they were suspecting that disease has a frequency, and they came up with this way to prove their theory. They built a room, it was, roughly the size of a phone booth. And they made it like a Faraday cage. They attenuated all light and sound. And they took a terminal ill patient. Now, these guys were allopathic, Western, doctors. And they took this terminal patient, put them bare feet, copper plate, 2 wires that go to adjacent room. There's somebody that was neutral would pick up a paddle, and the minute they were connected to the ill patient, they felt the same discomfort, same place. They repeated this process over 10,000 plus times with different individuals. One came in through the front door, back door. They kept it very clinical. Okay. What they were showing is information was traveling across copper wire, extreme low frequencies, to the individual and carrying information of the infection. And the person was responding to it. Alexander Graham Bell. Voice over what? What?
The telephone.
Exactly. But we communicate with it. We have weapons with it. We have all these different technologies. The Technion Institute right now, they use MRI and they use sound ablation, and they'll take fibroids in the same day without cutting the body. They use energy. They've had this since 1999. You can look it up. It was on a TED Talks. So what am I saying here? all the stuff that I do has been researched by very profound, incredibly gifted people.
And
I'm just trying to help people show that there's so many better ways to do things. Whatever works, works.
it's probably why Einstein said what he said, because he was a brilliant, gifted mind, and he saw the future being what we said at the very beginning of the podcast, which is that the medicine of the future is the medicine of frequency. So he saw
Right.
that way back then. I had a question for you, Aaron. I asked it earlier, but I think we overlooked one element, and that's water. So
Oh, right. Yes.
yeah, so
Yes.
talk to us about water for a moment and why water is. It's it actually, I should say that our podcast is brought to us by Water and Wellness, and I'm just passionate about people realizing the importance of water and its healing properties, and the importance of selecting the correct drinking water and the correct balance of water. So could you address that for a moment for us?
But there's so many different properties of water. I
Yeah.
mean, this would be a whole seminar. But to sum it up, there are so many toxins in water. Water under a microscope is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
You take all the different samples. I was entrenched in this stuff. This was back in like 2005. I had the devices or P meter. I had everything, total dissolved solids. I was really into this stuff. And water, well, look at we're water. Look at all the different functions we have, right? Our body's mainly water, right?
Well,
And
the body's 98% water, correct?
well, that's the fluids. The actual overall body is roughly 72%.
Oh, 72. Okay, I stand corrected then. Well, that's
But
still,
no, but who cares? It doesn't matter.
yeah,
The
exactly.
exact. It doesn't matter. It's water,
Uh-huh.
and there's, let's say, distilled water. Distilled water looks clean, great, but it robs all mineral source out of the water. So minerals do what? Their life. They allow for electrical flow.
Mm-hmm.
If you stand in a lightning storm in distilled water, you're insulated.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be less likely to be hit by lightning. People don't know that. So minerals are important in the water. It creates the life process, the electrical firing signal. So water, we use many different systems here. I do have water wellness. I love what that program is, and we have it in. I actually put it in my hydrogen photon cloud as a driver. So that's the deuterium depleted 10 parts per million, which is costly because the process mechanism takes a long time. But if people are drinking, water that is around 135 parts per million deuterium depleted, it preserves life and it's not as harsh on the mitochondria. So what happens is with all these different waters, hard water, I used to make this stuff in my garage, by the way. I would freeze it and then scoop it, and the process, it was ridiculous. But anyway, I love doing
It's
this stuff.
quite a challenging process to.
Yeah. But deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen. So when that mechanism goes through our system, it's like putting bad gas in the car. So it disturbs our function. So that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's systems that are, electrolysis that will energize and activate the negative charge of the hydrogen, which is the electron, and that's beneficial too. So there's many different properties of water. I use the 2.5 acidic water to clean things. It will knock out MRSA instant. Use it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so there's many properties of water, and it has to do with, municipalities. For years, they've been putting ionic fluoride, and that was okay. Everybody thought it strengthened your teeth and, did all these great things, but it turns out it didn't. It actually is almost the same atomic weight as iodine, so it messes up thyroid function. I've seen dogs and cats, because people are giving tap water and drink bottled water, so the dogs and cats are getting thyroid issue now. I look at all the different stats and things. So
So Aaron, what would the ideal? I'm just putting this to the more pragmatic level. So, what would the ideal water purification be to promote the optimum health? So, if we're in our homes, for example, and we know that we're not going to use a Brita water filter because it's not doing what we need, what would be the solution? Should we have it under the counter? Can we use it above the counter? Like Water and Wellness has the AquaTrue, which is apparently I haven't ever used it, but I've tasted that water and it's amazing.
Great water. I love it. It is great water. So
Right.
yeah, you
And you
do
can
that.
travel with that. I mean, not travel on an airplane, but if you were moving from one
Oh
place
yeah,
to another, you
it's
just
something
take it with
take
you.
it with you and go. I mean, it's not concreted in. It's
Right.
you can take it with you for
Right.
sure.
Right. So
So this,
AquaTrue, so that's a good brand to look at for people looking for the easy way to purify their water without having to buy bottled water in plastic bottles and pollute the environment, and or buy the filters that aren't really doing what you need to have done. So we can take that as a baseline. Then what happens once we put the water, let's just say the AquaTrue water? What else would we do to that water, and why?
well, you'd want to. I have a big filter system, so I'm not going to get into it because it's very costly what I built here. But that's a great starting point and anybody can do it, and it's
It's a lot of money too, right?
a lot of money.
Yeah.
However, there are many whatever people's means are, we can find solutions for them
Okay.
within their budget and stuff. There's always a way. That's how my mind works. There's always a way.
There's
You can help
always a
anybody.
way.
Second part, water, hydration, and minerals. Minerals are very important. We use the Quinton here. Rene Quinton, an explorer, 1897, finds this plankton, zooplankton, and he was able to extract this mineral water from that source, and it was the only thing that they used for a blood transfusion on a dog, and they removed all plasma, and this matched plasma. Interesting. It was used as a full, so it has all information of life on the planet. So it returns everything back to balance. So energy, balance, homeostasis. So these are things that people can do. So minerals are important. We also used a lot here fulvic acid. Fulvic acid, this is something that's lost in the soil. So from over farming or whatever we're doing, these things are what the plants are getting, and we're not getting that information from the plants.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Because our soils are so tainted.
Yeah, they're tainted. They're the way the petroleum green thumb project ran in the 60s, whatever. But we can overcome all this stuff. It's not difficult. It's just education. Show people this is what is recommended. You don't need to do it. If you believe in this, that's it, whatever. I mean, it's up to their choice. It's their path. They're the captain of them. We're just sharing these are other best practices you might want to consider. And we get incredible people that come through, and they don't have that thing that they came here that they told they would never be here again. So that's why I love doing what I do. When you give people back their power and they understand they can heal themselves, it is incredible. It is absolutely incredible.
So Aaron, because I don't want to run out of time and not have a chance to explain what would happen if somebody picked up the phone today, called you, and said, "Aaron, I want to come and visit."
Well, I'm not going to answer the phone. It'd be my group here.
You're very capable staff. I'm so sorry. Well, you know what I mean. I guess that was anecdotal, but what I mean is, if somebody calls into the center, and by the way, for our viewing audience, this is one of the most remarkably staffed centers. You talk about curb appeal, the location starts first, and then, as I mentioned, the feeling of love as you walk in to the center. I know that has a lot to do with Aaron and his vision and his beliefs. However, he hires in his own image, of course, and he has incredibly capable people. And that, I'll give a little plug to Shannon and Brian and Allie and Stephen. I mean, the whole group is really quite competent and very much about caring for the client that walks in the door. And so, okay, so let's just say someone wants to come and join. I know you've been very generous. You're going to talk in a moment about a beautiful offer that you've made to our viewers and listeners, and to get an opportunity to sample what you are all about. So what would happen if someone contacts the center, wants to come in? What do they expect?
Well, when they come in, contact the center, they'll be brought in once agreed upon, because this is a private club. It's open to everybody, but we have to have it as a private club. It's not open to the public. They go through the vetting process, and if they choose to come through the door, then they agree to what we do here, and then they go through a intake and then a particular mapping system that we have here. That's how we
That's the
start.
baseline. And by the way, I meant to mention Kathleen, because she she does that baseline. She has a clinical background, so she's very, very competent at taking the patient by the hand. And
I don't even call them patients here. I have lots
I
of
meant
patients.
to say client. You noticed I didn't say patient at all today.
Yeah, no,
I said
that's good.
client. That was a slip. That was a slip of the tongue. Sorry.
All right. I listen to everything that's going on.
Because it's a club, and these are clients, these are participants. So, okay, so they do the baseline, and then who interprets what the results are? And
I view everything that goes on here because I've built the program. I look at everybody's stuff.
No one knows it like you.
Everyone here, they're handpicked by me, and they're incredibly gifted people with big hearts. That's what they do. They have to care about what they're doing.
Right.
When I work with an individual, my intent, they're already well. Mm-hmm. So, and the other thing is, and don't take this wrong, anybody that's listening, the less I see of you, the better. Means we did what we did to help you get back on track.
Absolutely. And you're not, what I love about what you do, Aaron, is you're not trying to push product or push the service. It's all about the person desiring, like we said, the burning desire to make a change. And if you don't have that motivation, then you probably don't belong at your club, because you have to want.
I won't come here anyway. It's too much work, so that's fine. What I do expect is when my group here works with anybody, we give 100%. Mm-hmm. And if you match that with your 100%, you can make a lot of change quick.
Mm-hmm. Well, so we're going to run out of time. Would you explain what your wonderful, generous offer is for our viewers?
Well, right now, anybody that calls into this, we're going to do any program that we have here. You can do as a 2-for-1. So whatever the packets are, we'll double these sessions, and you can share that with friends and family.
Wow.
How it works is they're like credits, and they never expire. So you can.
They never expires. That's perfect. Although I'll give an example. So one program that I was very attracted to and suggested to a few of my friends has 18 sessions, which you can share with your loved ones. However, those 18 sessions, you probably want them all for yourself because they are so valuable to your
go
health.
Quick, and the value, when people come here, they'll see the value. They get to do a lot.
Right.
And
it's kind of like a kid in the candy store. You get in there and you don't want to leave, and it's like being Christmas all year long when you are being so attended to and you're feeling such beautiful improvement. So I didn't finish. So the 18 sessions would be $3,600, which is $200 a session, which is.
I'm going to correct that because.
Oh, okay.
what? Okay, so typically 9 sessions would be $4,500.
Right.
We'll 18 for $4,500
Oh, okay. I guess.
program,
Okay.
and any other packets they'll double.
We'll
But
double.
there,
Okay.
and I broke it down.
Okay. So they need to use the Ageless code, and they
Yeah,
need to contact Ali Marcus, right, at your office.
yeah, Ali Marcus or Shannon when she's here. Yeah,
Okay, and at the website, they can. Well, why don't we do the phone number? That might be easier for people to call
that's
in. What is your phone number?
it's 310
310
554
554
7070.
7070. Okay, very good. We got it. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today and for giving so much of yourself to give back to humanity. This is truly a calling. Defines who you are as a human being at your very core and your soul, and you should be honored for all that you are doing. And I am honoring you right now. So
Well, thank you. I take it right into my heart,
thank
and I
you.
want to share this with everyone. This is not about me or anything.
I
I'm
know that.
just I want to share this with everyone so you can help your family. And at the end of the day, I don't even care if my name's on this. I'm the ghost in the machine.
No, you have a zero ego, which is just another part of the beauty of who you are. And you don't want to take the credit. You'd rather give the credit to your team and be in the background. That's, again, a big factor in leadership. So I totally admire that about you. Aaron, we're going to say goodbye, and we're going to wish you very much success. I think that these centers should be expanded to other locations. That's something that I'm sure you're thinking about. I didn't get into that today, but there is definitely a need, and good thing that we're here in California, where so much of the mindset is about health and wellness, healing. And so you picked the right location, at least for your flagship. So thank you again, and you have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All right.
Take care.
Everyone.
'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are.
Okay. So I just wanted to quickly say a quick close here.